Okay, this week's podcast of the week is called Awesome Vocabulary Podcast. Or rather, Awesome Vocabulary. I can't say the word vocabulary. Awesome Vocabulary Podcast. It comes from readpierce.com, and you can also get it or vocabulary.blogspot.com, which is actually a better website to go to. We've got here, the podcast description says, the most popular English vocabulary podcast. Very cool, nerdy podcast. Get your nerd on. We are a non-profit educational podcast that is always free, thanks to sponsorship by www.buzuki.com. So, this week's podcast of the week is called Awesome Vocabulary Podcast, and it's full of all sorts of different vocabulary that you may or may want to use. And for all my regular viewers out there, yes indeed, this one is an American English podcast. So not only do we bring you British English, but we also bring you American English. Oh, we are so nice to you. So that's this week's podcast of the week, Awesome Vocabulary Podcast. Check it out at www.vocabulary, vocabulary.blogspot.com. Okay, join us again when we come back from the break, when we can bring you this week's learning tip of the week. Okay, this week's learning tip of the week is speak English when exercising or cleaning your room. Now, this is a great tip to have. One of the things that really is important is that you need to speak English as often as you can. Learning a language is really, really, really important, and you need to be immersed in that language. You need to actually be using it all the time. So whenever you have a chance, speak English. Speak it when you're exercising, speak it when you're cleaning your room, when you're sat on a subway, when you're sat on a bus or in a taxi. Think yourself in English. How would you describe the situation in English? So how would you, if you get into a taxi, how would you ask the driver to take you to where you want to go using English? Great way to learn English. Always look for opportunities to speak English. It's going to give you a really, really big advantage if you can actually instinctively know how to say something in English. Okay, that's this week's special learning tip of the week. I just want to give you a couple more tips on learning English. Let's just have a look at these. Interview tips 2, I'm calling it. The first one is don't learn your script. The reason why I say that is if you learn your script, you sound like you're reading it. And a native English speaker will be able to tell immediately if you're reading something. If you've learnt your script, if you're kind of like memorized your script and you're reading it, then you sound terrible. The intonation is wrong, the stress on words is wrong, and it doesn't actually tell us how good your English is. So don't learn your script. Try to write your script. If you're writing a script, try to write it in a note fashion. So then you can fill in the blanks and you can start sounding very, very natural. Okay, practice answering questions. Now this means imagine you're being asked questions and then just practice answering them without notes in front of the mirror or in your room. The thing is, you can make as many mistakes as you want when you're practicing. So practice as often as you can, even if you have to spend all day the day before the interview. Practice, 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 practice. Practice is going to be the only way that you will stop sounding like you'll stop it sounding like a read script. You don't want to be reading your script. And another and final tip is do not say hi when you enter the room. Okay, this one's really, really simple, but so many students walk in going, hi. Hi in English is actually very informal. And so when you're meeting somebody in an interview, you don't want to sound informal. So try not to use the word hi or even really use the word hello. Try to use good morning or good afternoon or good evening. It's much nicer, it's much better, and it's more what native speakers say. And also, it is a very, very simple tip to be able to sound a little different. So, do not say hi when you enter an interview room. Say good morning or good afternoon or good evening. Okay, let's move on now to this week's Expression of the Week. This week's expression of the week is, do you want to bet? Now, you'll see this written down as, do you want to bet? But the way that we actually say it is, do you want to bet? Do you wanna bet? Do you want to bet? Do you want to bet? Now, basically what this means is, do you want to gamble? Do you want to put some money on that you are right? Let's just look at an example of this. Person A would say, there are 5 time zones in the USA. Want to bet? There are 4, not 5. Want to bet? So it kind of means you're wrong, I'm right, and I am prepared to put money on it. So, for example, there are 5 time zones in the USA. Want to bet? There are 4, not 5. So there you go. That's this week's expression of the week. Do you want to bet? There are 5 time zones in the USA. Want to bet? There are 4, not 5. And notice the intonation there. Want to bet? It's rising intonation. Want to bet? Rising intonation. Okay, that's the expression of the week. Now, moving on to our final segment of this week's show. Let's do this week's to-do. Okay, this week's to-do list, and we have four items on this week's to-do list. For number 1 is spend 10 to 20 minutes a day speaking in English, whether it's in your room, whether it's at the gym, whether it's privately on a bus or in a taxi. Make sure nobody's watching you. So just spend 10 to 20 minutes a day actually speaking in English. And if you remember way back in one of our previous episodes, we actually pointed out that you should spend one of the best places to practice speaking English is in the shower. Don't forget to check out FES's website, www.fancorp.com. This is a great website full of information about what our company can do for you, and also we have a downloads page at the end. To-do list number 3, leave a comment on iTunes Music Store. I was just checking through our listing on the iTunes website, and I noticed nobody's left a comment. So come on, guys, please, somebody out there, leave a comment on the iTunes Music Store. Tell us what you think. Tell us how we can improve it, and give us some stars. And we're always looking at ways of wanting to improve English User TV. This is for you. We really, really want to help you learn English. So come on, guys, help me out. Leave a comment on the iTunes Music Store. And finally, I want you to write a short self-introduction. It's kind of like a little competition, but I want you to write a short self-introduction. Tell me about yourself. You can email it to us at eutv@fancorp.com. That's eutv@fancorp.com. Don't worry, the website of the week, podcast of the week, and our email address is at the end of this show. So please, come on, guys, write a short self-introduction. Email it to us at eutv@fancorp.com. We will take a look at it, we'll correct it, and we'll send you back a perfect self-introduction. What a fantastic service that we're offering you. So, write a short self-introduction to eutv@fancorp.com. Okay, that's it for this week's show. thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this little bit of a special show on English interviews. If you have any questions or you would like to send us any details, don't forget, email us at eutv@fancorp.com. Please leave